right, everyone. Welcome to another round of Another Round with Scathing Collins and Stephen B. Jones and Jeff Johnson.
Scathing.
That's us. It's good to see you guys.
I don't understand this joke.
Good to see my old friends. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
Another round of another round of another round of another round.
Right. So tonight we are going to be talking about one of our all-time favorite X-Men issues, 133.
Woo!
Yeah. Such
an amazing issue that you puppies, I think, got monthly or whatever at the time, and I think I waited like 5 years or something to get that issue.
Oh, really? Wow. You missed it when it was on the racks?
I had 132, and then I had 134.
Brutal.
For years.
That is brutal.
It was rough.
That's a heartbreaking story. I feel like we should just talk an hour about that and the feelings
about the shame of that. Well, I mean, that was kind of the love-hate relationship with the spinner racks at 7-Eleven. Is like, if you didn't, well, Jones, you had the secret down. You knew to go on Wednesday.
I definitely, at a certain point, I definitely figured it out. But it is, I wonder what it's like for, I mean, obviously now everything's different, right? Like, I just subscribed to Comixology unlimited thing today because I'm like, wow, $5 a month. You know, like, this is a good deal. And
right.
Hey, Comixology is not our sponsor, but just I'm like, this seems like a good deal. But it seemed reminiscent of like, nowadays you can get almost anything you want whenever you want. You know what I mean? And like, worst case scenario now, it's like, oh, like I just had this experience where I only just saw Shang-Chi this weekend because I still didn't quite feel comfortable going to the theater, you know? Mm-hmm. And I realized, man, that's the first time in maybe 30 years that I haven't seen a movie that I really wanted to see within the first few days or the first week, you know? And,
right.
And so it's interesting, you know, like, and I think we've talked about this before, that whole concept of like Star Wars, you know, we were buying all those Star Wars trading cards or just staring at like the LP album cover because you just couldn't see the images. That's why everyone went to see all these movies a million times in the theater, because it was the only place you could get. And so I kind of do miss that like archaeological Indiana Jones aspect of being a comic collector, you know, like that we were kind of at the whim of our liquor store or 7-Eleven store or different stuff, because not everyone had access to a comic book store back then because they weren't that preeminent. And then even if you did, I know for me it was, I had to take a bus from Alamo to Walnut Creek. And then,
that's a comic book fan right there.
And then transfer from another bus from Walnut Creek to the Pleasant Hill line. I mean, I'm amazed that my parents allowed me at like 10 years old to be gone for maybe
different
6
times,
hours.
Different times, yeah.
But we used to have to work hard. So when you missed an issue, I think I've said this before too, Scott, but yeah, mine was 129. I missed the first appearance of Kitty Pryde, and I traded 6 Fantastic Fours to get it, and was happy to make the trade. Well, I mean, and they were good ones. It was George Perez. It was the beginning of Salem 7, I think, or something. You know, like this very superhero-y villain group that doesn't feel very Fantastic Four-y, really, but.
Yeah, no, it was hard times back then, but let's dig in.
All right. Well, so I'm going to be shifting over to, I have a Wolverine. So what am I, just for fun, I did a version of this cover.
Such a great cover.
Yeah. So I did a version of this cover for fun, and I'm going to finish it tonight. And so I'm going to tune out a little bit, and I'll be drawing, and people can watch this happen.
Did you load a pic of that on here?
I did not.
Or you shared it on a different thing, but all right.
Or Jeff, can we at least get rid of the beautiful cover so we can see your cover?
There we go. How's that? And then I will.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Now, I feel like everyone that likes Jeff Johnson that's watching this show probably knows it, but we should also probably bring up when I look at that beautiful cover drawn by John Byrne and inked by Terry Austin. One of the 3 artists on this show has had the honor of being inked by Terry Austin.
Yeah, that is it's one of those moments that happened that I have to admit was kind of ridiculous. It was one of those things that you don't know what you're asking for, so you don't realize you shouldn't be asking for it.
Right.
When I was doing Wonder Man and Fabian asked me who I wanted to ink me, I asked for Terry Austin, the most ballsy, outrageous thing to do. And then Fabian was sort of flabbergasted, but he's like, all right, I'll ask him. And then Terry said yes. That was the most amazing. And he inked all the covers and he inked the first 3 issues. And he really,
this guy.
Yeah.
And wasn't also there, didn't you have like the amazing situation where your partner at the time had like gotten Terry to ink some pieces that you'd done at a convention, right? Or something like, so.
Yeah, I had drawn a Wolverine, and then my girlfriend at the time had actually reached out and contacted Terry and got it inked by him as a present for me. And so,
what happened to that piece? Because I feel like it was framed for a while at your house.
It was framed for a while. I think she has it now.
Okay, deservedly.
Deservedly, absolutely. And so, it wasn't 100% out of the blue that I asked for Terry. He'd already inked me once. And so I think that that's one of the reasons that he said yes, is that he and I had already worked together. Loosely.
Scott, what are you drinking there? I see you just put a little something.
I've got another 805, but this one's got lime in it. Brewed with lime.
Nice.
Jeff, what are you drinking tonight?
Let me go ahead and switch over. I am going to be drinking my usual. Give me a second. Too much light in my face.
Duff?
Yeah, Duff. We don't serve FUD. All right. This is from my favorite meadery, Steamworks Meadery, and it is Orange Blossom. And it is delicious.
It looks delicious.
It is. And
wait, who's that?
Link in the description box.
These guys?
That's the place. Give them a call. Reach
Excellent.
out to them. They will send you some delicious mead.
Woohoo!
Just to keep you guys on your toes tonight, representing those that don't drink alcohol, I've been going with cola from around the world. But tonight,
yes,
nice.
We go to some ginger beer, Boondocks ginger beer from Australia. Family
from Australia?
Yeah. Now, Jeff and I have drank a fair share of these in New Zealand, but that means they only have to fly them over the Tasman Sea, whereas they got to pay more to get them to go all the way across the Pacific Ocean.
There we go. All right.
It's true, Bill. It's true.
All right. And Scott, you are doing a great job while I am distracted with drawing. Thank you.
And Bill, I'd like you to know that we're feeling a lot of shame as we do these plugs. These aren't shameless.
All right.
You don't know me, Bill.
All right. Since we're starting at the beginning here, let's since Jeff is working on that piece, which is awesome. His piece to me is actually an amalgamation between this idea and this idea.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's really that whole intro scene that he's doing that's combining into his art piece, which is awesome.
Well, I really wanted it to be if you go a little further, Scott, like there's that great opening fight scene, like where he's above the ceiling. And I always thought, like, when I was a kid, that scene was just the composition, the angle, everything in it was so revelatory. I'm like, oh wow, I don't think I'd ever seen such a clean, interesting composition before. And Wolverine was so awesome. I mean, he
was so awesome. What's funny to me, like I mentioned at the beginning, that I didn't see this 2 years later, so I had started hearing the hype. of other friends that had seen it or something like that. And I don't know if none of my friends had it or whatever, but I started hearing about it ahead of time. And then when I actually saw the issue, it was like, wow, yeah, it really it holds up for all the hype that people are talking about. But one of the other reasons I really like that, especially this opening sequence, is because that whole bit with Wolverine up there in the rafters doing that, he'd never done something like that before. It fit his personality perfectly, but it wasn't something like we'd seen 100 times. This wasn't him changing in the phone booth, that it wasn't those typical things that you would have seen somebody do before. This was brand new turf.
Yeah, no, he was full-blown ninja-ing in there.
Well, and I kind of feel like, too, I was thinking about it, that in some ways, it took sort of 30 issues or so to earn this fan service, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, once Byrne took over, I think Wolverine started becoming more and more of the star of the book. And I don't know if that was just pushing the Canadian, pushing the Canadian, but I think, but even so, like, it feel like now it's become a staple, but like the book was very good about being balanced as a book about the X-Men, and to shine a spotlight on just one character for so much of it really wasn't that common at that time,
Right. No, this is a complete rarity. Absolutely.
Even though that being said, rereading it again today, I realized like how it's still a very good balanced issue. You know what I mean? There's a lot, like everybody gets some screen time, except maybe Colossus, poor guy.
Right. Yeah, actually, I mean, this one is mostly Wolverine gets about almost half the issue. He gets like 7 or 8 pages out of this whole thing. I was reading it, and then the rest of the X-Men only get that remaining 12 pages. But remember, this is only a 17-page comic book.
It's so crazy. I love how
there's so much story in it.
How much damage can you do? Well, let us tell you.
Right. So this opening sequence is really still only 3 pages? 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, 4 and a couple extra panels. But yeah, to give one character that many pages in an opening sequence is still, that was rare for these days. You'd have to cover a lot more ground by this point and include everybody else.
It's interesting looking at what you have there, Scott, because I noticed that again today, that I love it. Are we going to go panel through panel? If so, I'm really excited.
Jeff has loaded a lot of them in here, so yes, we can.
I loaded the whole issue in. We can do every panel, Steve. We can get as deep as you want. And I also really wanted to point out, like all these guys, even though they're faceless, they are not nameless. Like,
yes, that's a great little Claremont bit that because like nowadays they probably wouldn't have looked so super hero-y, or super villainy. They wouldn't have given them these costumes, but the fact that they each one got names. But I love, panel 2 and 3 of the whole issue, that's a very cinematic shot, in terms of that we stay with the same angle for those first 2. And then in a way we kind of just widen out for the third one. Like it's not that different of an angle. But someone's
very straightforward storytelling.
Someone has already made a.
There's lots of comments I'm missing.
So yeah, someone's made a comment about which I'm going to have to beg to disagree with them. Sorry, I can't find their message. But so that 4th panel, Scott, have you got the second half of this page?
Yeah.
Yes. There.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought, what a brilliant idea in 1980s comic to go like, okay, we've created a reality that we feel is real in this comic, and Wolverine is using his claws in a way we've never seen him use them before. So this man should just be shooting blood out of his body. Right. And so the fact that they just did the torn cloth and they made the comics red, the panels red, I think is just a brilliant choice given the times,
Well, and the other thing that I want to point out with all this stuff, since you especially mentioned Terry before, and we'll mention him again, I'm sure.
Ooh, my law.
Yeah, that's looking great, Jeff. How do I
live without Jeff? I don't want to know.
Which one are you looking for, Scott? Move it around.
I think I got it. All right, so that panel we're looking at this panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can see all the lines. It's all clear and everything else. This is obviously the digital version of the whole thing. Now.
Oh, wow. It printed so dark.
Look at how dark that is. You do not see Wolverine's eyes.
Interesting.
True.
All this is gone. That whole drip thing that's going on, you can barely see that. He mentions it, which is one of the
Right.
reasons why you did stuff like that back then, to make sure you mentioned the actions that were going on in the panel,
Right.
because you never knew how badly this stuff was going to print.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, holy cow.
But, you know, all the line work that's on there, it's almost all lost. I'm sure that stuff was driving Terry nuts month after month after month of what you wouldn't get in the actual printed book.
I bet it was.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to,
Right,
there,
digital
the printed
version's
book.
definitely been recolored for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
that's-
all right. So, oh, and I love that last panel we have up here where Wolverine's head is upside down as he's jumping around.
Yeah.
Again, something you don't normally see every day with any of these guys jumping around doing stuff. I don't even know how many times I've seen Spider-Man do a pose like that.
No, true enough.
Well, Jones, you would know much more. Like,
Yes.
have we seen? So you're saying like, have we? This is sort of the first time we saw Wolverine. This is the first time we see him actually kill a dude.
It might have been the first time we've seen him kill a human being. I'm trying to go back and think of,
Or at least on camera.
first, like he uses his claws in the Savage Land,
Yep.
you know.
But that was off camera, and Nightcrawler or Storm were just like shocked by seeing it.
right, like Alpha Flight issue, Proteus. I mean, hopefully someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I definitely feel like this is the first time we just saw him flat out just kill human beings on camera.
I remember it being remarkably shocking, like to be like, "Whoa, this was intense."
I want to
Absolutely.
give a shout out to our comment from Dave Righteous. Angelo ain't going home to the missus tonight. Nope, that's true.
Nice.
This will be the last anyone sees of Angelo.
Yep.
Well, and I've seen a interview with the dear departed Len Wayne, who had said that all those years when he was first doing Wolverine stuff where they were setting it up, his whole thought was, well, we can't actually show that violence, of course. That would throw it over the edge and fans may not even like that sort of thing.
Right.
And then he comments how later on he saw this happen, that Chris and John and all these people had put this together, and then they showed Wolverine doing all that stuff, and he's like, oh, I was completely wrong because this issue became such a sensation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I loved is like that the stakes were real in this one in a way that for me as a teenager was seemed kind of revelatory, but also I think that also the consequences like were kind of intense. People were not his teammates were not real happy that he was a killer.
No, well,
No.
also, but speaking of those consequences too, Jeff, like something else that, you know, Wolverine has sort of evolved to being almost indestructible at this
Right.
point. And
Oh, yeah.
and that is not true at this point. Like his healing factor is not even actually mentioned in this. Like, and when he gets shot there,
Nope.
just a moment, by the way, I love the level that we are geeking out on this comic right now.
Right.
I feel like I should be talking like Dr. Frank this whole episode.
Well, when Wolverine references that he turns his body so that the bullets only glance off of his torso.
But that is what he does. Like the healing factor I don't think is mentioned in the dialogue, even though it's acknowledged that he has it. And so it's like Wolverine just, you know, there's a lot more threat in this episode because doesn't seem so indestructible. Plus he gets the shit beat out of him, spoiler alert, later in the issue. And one feels
Also,
that if
beforehand, Leland knocks him out.
right. Yeah. And you sort of feel like, oh, a later Wolverine would have just waded through, you know, the guards beating.
Oh,
him.
yeah. They would have been no problem in today's comic book. There's no way that 3 guys or 4 guys with billy clubs would have slowed him even down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we finished that sequence.
Oh wait, actually, Scott, did you have, because there's a classic burn shot on that previous page, but I want to talk about that shot that
I
you
don't think on the previous page.
just there's that long shot across the middle of the
Oh yeah, no, Jeff did not put that one in,
Oops.
Jeff, you
but
said
it's a
it.
great one. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's under the boxes.
Well, and that Byrne's
Oh, sorry.
Byrne's drawn the ground plane, and I feel like that's a
In this
shot
one?
he did a lot. No, it's in the
No,
previous
I didn't
page.
mean that one. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay, my bad.
You know, where Byrne does a thing where he he does sometimes a flat shot where he just draws the ground plane, but then it's but he he never has them standing on the panel border, or very rarely does. But I just think it's an interesting shot.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, no, I can't. I can sort of show it on camera.
Yeah, exactly that.
That's the one you're talking about.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
I feel like that's a go-to good informational shot that Byrne uses.
Oh yeah, I mean the storytelling in this old-fashioned stuff was really, I mean, spot on, great. There was tons of these kind of shots to make sure we would know what was going on. So then, they would walk up to him next, and then you'd have the surprise and all that kind of stuff. But you need those kind of shots to build up that moment.
Yeah, great 5-panel page.
Yeah, really great stuff. All right, so then we get to the end of the sequence.
No, I can't ever remember them showing Wolverine's. Like, that's a shot. It would have worked without the eyeballs in it, but they very rarely showed Wolverine's eyes through the mask. You know what I mean?
Correct.
But it works. I think it would not have been as effective without those eyes in that shot.
No, probably not. I mean, and there's other stuff on. Did you get the? Yeah, you got the next one. Just like Claremont giving these guys names and all that stuff for these Hellfire security guys or whatever they are. Look at that third panel with Byrne making the face on him and everything. He's cheating like crazy in a bunch of these things where they're supposed to have like this mannequin, unemotional face, but he's getting lots of emotions in here.
That's the George Tuska, classic Iron Man problem of the 70s of like, how do we, like, artists were all, Gene Colan, everyone was always finding ways to kind of hint some, is this the master, Chase Connolly, that is watching us? Oh my God, honored. Chase Connolly is a incredibly great artist that works in the animation industry. And
you mentioned his class, Steve.
Awesome. Thanks, Chase.
Yeah, this Chase can draw circles around all three of us. That's awesome. Yeah, that like all those guys were always finding ways. I mean, and sometimes it was just, and it's just what Byrne did here too, right? Like, okay, if we're showing faceless guy like Iron Man, if we do it as an upshot, then the eyes are cheated to look like it's a surprise, and if we do a down shot, then Iron Man's eyes are cheated to look like he's mad, And so I feel like that's what Byrne has done here. But then he's definitely gone like, well, these masks are a little bit more.
You could definitely use a little something. Well, I know that I did a lot when I was drawing Wonder Man. I would definitely play with cartooning the shape of the eyeball, since I couldn't put, or I couldn't put the iris in.
Right. That's interesting. For the first 2 years of your career, you had to get really, really good at expressions without being able to use the eye.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had to cartoon I had to go over the top with it a bunch. But I mean, thanks to Kevin McGuire for showing me how to do that.
And it's one of those things that people used to cheat a lot on back then, not only here with the Wolverine stuff, but I remember the various times that Byrne and them would cheat with Nightcrawler.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden be really startled by something, and you put those little dots on the eyeballs, and that helps the whole expression.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, and right at the when the guy drops the gun at the end of that point, Byrne uses that shot again. But he did it at a much, much lower angle, but still showing us the ground plane.
Right.
Right.
That's always been a shot I've tended to struggle with. I'm trying to get better with my perspective of moving the camera that low.
It's a tough angle.
Well, the danger of being a character designer and then a storyboard artist is that you can get my boss on my current show is giving me a hard time about it. There can be a tendency to want to turn group shots into like a character lineup, where you're showing everyone evenly. And Byrne has an amazing reveal later when we get to the Hellfire Club. He kind of does do that for the Hellfire Club, and I think it's a good shot. But then he has some nice depth with how he layers the X-Men. And I definitely now have to like take a quick look anytime I'm drawing some characters all in a row. Like, wait, is that too flat? Have I made it? Is this a character design lineup, or have I set up a shot? So
right.
Group shots are a pain.
Oh yeah. Well, Jeff, you are so great at layering. And
oh wait, Jeff, you had that panel. I was just out of order. I didn't see it. Sorry. There's that panel that Jonesy wanted.
Fans, anyone watching, I'd like to apologize for the technical difficulties in the
Well, I
show.
mean, so I'm looking up for my drawing at the moment. Look how. So one of the things I think is really great about Byrne is just how he has such quietly competent compositions. Like the diagonal of the staircase coming down, leading to those two guys, and then the diagonal of the way the boxes are shaped leading out forms.
It's great. It's
perfect compositional shape.
Yep.
It's so true. Like, I love Todd McFarlane and all the guys that created the image revolution and the stuff that kind of started to happen. But I do miss this era of storytelling where because if any of those if Todd or Jim Lee or any of those superstars had done these comics, this comic in 1991, let's say, we would have been having a lot of panel border breaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even with it being 5 panels, it would have been like each one would have been like a, what do you call it? Like a poster, there would have been a poster shot.
Right.
And there's something amazing about that art for sure. But I do love this kind of restrained there's more of a sense that there's a camera,
Yep. It's very much more like we're just a passenger here inside the same room with these guys. It's not necessarily being overblown or overtold for us. It's just being told we're there.
Right. And what's great about the scene, like the drawings are exceptional, obviously, but what's great about the scene is what's happening, not how we're seeing it happen necessarily. Like,
speaking of an exceptional drawing.
Oh, so if you want to go back a little bit, Steve. So this moment for me, that what I'm drawing right now is actually that he turns on that last guy. And so that's
right.
That's the last guy's point of view before he gives him that speech.
This one?
I see. So it's as if
So in my mind, like, that's what he sees, where he's like, oh, I'm quitting.
That cover is great, Jeff. It's a little bit like the John Bolton classic X-Men things or something like that. Like, drawing a different, or Back to the Future 2, a little bit a different version of the same thing.
Totally.
All right. So then we finish with that, and then we're off to Hellfire Club.
There's not another Chase Connolly. This is Chase Connolly that's working on X-Men 97, the new cartoon they just announced last Friday, that is watching our podcast, which is great.
Oh, right on.
And Jeff and I know Jake. I don't know how to pronounce Jake's last name properly, but amazing director and storyboard artist. Jake. God, now Jake's gonna kill me. Castorona. Many apologies. I will send you I should look it up. And Matthew Bourdonnaie's working on that show too. Another really talented artist.
Fantastic.
Super nice guy.
Yeah. Well,
all right, yeah. This
about this is like just how much to throw in a bit of, not history necessarily, but like just sort of personal history, is that the X-Men was, sure, I don't even know what it was selling back in the day. I know that it was on the bubble for a while, sort of, but like these issues sort of defined comics for me.
Oh yeah.
I think Byrne is what dragged. Byrne definitely started to drag it into the top 10. Like, I think it was on the bubble during, and I love the Cockrum times too, but it was still bi-monthly when Byrne took over. And then and then it switched to and then it switched to monthly, like right when I first started doing it. Just also, by the way, in the shameless plug, my God, this Boondocks ginger beer is delicious. It's just like drinking pure sugar in liquid form. Thank you, Australian family-owned business.
Speaking of beverages, let me find. So I know
God, those are such good. Sorry if we can. Those shots are so great because okay. I feel like Sean would make fun of me if I drew that picture of the Hellfire Club in that.
This one.
Yeah.
But look at those faces.
No, it's amazing. Well, it's such a great, and it's just a zoom in from the wide shot, but then Byrne does such a great job, and Jeff and Scott, you do this really well too, of the way the X-Men are like layered properly in perspective. In that shot, yeah, exactly. And a lot of people would have focused more on the X-Men, but this is about setting up the Hellfire Club and how powerful they are.
Right.
Well, and they're actually very removed and everything too, which is nice.
Right. Well, Scott and I were talking earlier about the difference between modern comics. They're not all modern comics, but one of the things that was more in fashion back in the day was the omniscient narrator, right? Like someone who would like every book back in the day was they took, and I don't know if they took into account, but it seemed to me like they understood that you might miss an issue or that you might be a first-time reader. So
Yep.
every caption, all the narration gives you all the information you need, even if you've never picked up an X-Men book before.
Oh yeah, no, it's all right. I forgot. I actually wrote that down rereading the book. So, what I love is that, what is it? Wolverine? Which shot is it? Oh yeah, all right. When Wolverine is talking to the guy, he's hurt and he's 5 meters away from me, and I got a full clip of ammo, Michael. Hey, I love that Claremont is so.
Oh, this
specific.
one, yeah.
So specific. He has Logan say meters because he's Canadian. He doesn't say feet. So I love that. But question, can I kill Wolverine before he can reach me? Wolverine's claw, like basically he has Wolverine through dialogue give a bunch of exposition about Wolverine's powers and what he can and can't do, but it's totally motivated. You know,
it's super smooth. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic exposition dump.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, it's just explaining all the way as you go along. There's no, having to read between. You can read a whole bunch of stuff into it and pay attention to stuff later and, gossip and nerd out about all sorts of different angles of stuff that happens in here. But all those basics that come across in the story or the real meat and potatoes that you need of the story, it's all told you, not only in the visuals, but they make sure that it's covered in the captions or the dialogue or the thought balloons or whatever goes on here. There's you do not have to work hard to understand how this is going to go. But there's a magic with that to me where, because it's played out there for you, I think it's one of those things where, again, your brain will look at, okay, this caption describes who Wolverine is. He's from Canada or something, and then he's got this adamantium skeleton. And then you see the picture of him and he's looking ferocious. And then he turns on and he gets this guy or something. Your head puts all those pieces together. So again, it's making that movie in there. So it's not necessarily that you're reading this dialogue thinking that's exactly what he's saying. Oh my God, this is exactly what he's thinking, or those kind of realistic tendencies that go around today. It's just a matter of conveying this all to you so you can have this thing in your head and play it out almost actually any way that you want to.
Yeah. And also one of the things that I liked about it too, Scott and I were talking earlier once again, Steve, about like who the narrator is, and at some point he signs it Jim.
You and Scott were you and Scott have a whole show before the show without me? What's happening?
I mean, obviously.
You were busy.
So, but one of the things I found fascinating about that is that there is a real personal connection between the storyteller and the reader in a way that I think is a holdover from the old Stan Lee days. Like, there's like, you're part of the crew. You're part of the, like, oh yeah, you get the secret story. Yeah. You're my buddy. Come on in. I'm going to tell you the story.
For sure.
No, absolutely. It's that Stan Lee isms again about it's all just very buddy friendly.
Yeah. Right. True believers. All right. Also, by the way, it's Jake Castorena. I just had to be able to see his name to be able to read it. So, Jake is an incredibly talented artist that is also working on X-Men 97 with Chase. So Jake Castorena, you're awesome. Sorry about that.
Jake is a storytelling badass.
And he directed me on a Scooby video, which I had he directed the Scooby-Doo meets Batman Brave and the Bold. And it is a great, great video. And I got to do an amazing scene where Harvey Bullock tries to intimidate and interrogate Fred from the Scooby Gang, and Fred is just too happy. It's like it's just not working. So anyway, go buy that video streaming. All right, back to the X-Men.
Right.
And Henry's correct here that Leland on the right-hand side with the orange beard is based on Orson Welles, and Pierce was based on Donald Sutherland. I heard that before. And also Sebastian Shaw here in the middle, I believe, is based off of the main guy from Jaws.
Richard, Robert Shaw. You can totally see it now that you mention that.
Yep.
because Byrne is
Totally
not
there.
what we would call a realistic artist, but that is completely Robert Shaw. That is completely Orson Welles. He will sell.
Yeah, I don't think that Byrne did
time.
that a lot back then, but he talked about it here that he had done it for these guys anyway. Yeah.
And I buy that as Donald Sutherland for sure as Pierce.
Well, the Hellfire Club is a real club.
Right.
Yes. But not this inner circle, not these mean people.
We don't know that.
Seeing Gene, so makes me grumpy. Oh, it's so horrible. Jason Weingard, you jerk.
I think he based Jason here on some British actor too. I don't remember.
I could see that.
But
see that.
But yeah, for some reason he was really enjoying that in this bunch.
Remember,
and
there's that great shot a couple issues before where when they're first establishing Jason Weingard, Byrne and Claremont did that awesome shot where Weingard doesn't have the correct silhouette. He has the original Mastermind's or shadow. Yep. When he's cast.
That's a great
the light, the headlight of the car passing him by was blasting his shadow big up onto the side of a building. It's a beautiful shot. But here again, with all this stuff, I mean, we're going to be talking about this issue and all the great things they're doing here. But this was part of the magic of the books at the time that is just so hard for, I think, modern books to try and replicate because of the in and out of how books are selling or whatever. But we had already been seeing this Jason Weingard thing and that whole Mastermind buildup. It's been going on for like over a year at this point, maybe even 2 years at this point.
Right.
From his first showing up or whatnot, and first influencing Jean on various things when she thinks that Scott's dead. That's when he first approaches her. In fact, I think the very first approaches he does, he's actually just still feeling her out. He approaches her as different people. Do you remember how that happened? He was like a priest on a plane first, this round-headed, gray-haired priest or something.
Yep. That's subplots, setting stuff up over a long time. It's amazing.
Well, Claremont did not invent the subplot, but he definitely made it his own.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the man could juggle. Especially during this time, and I think it's because Byrne is credited as co-plotting this issue, and I think probably the book never gets better than when Byrne has kind of fought his way up to them kind of doing it together, and then basically I guess when he'd hit the peak of his powers is when he leaves and moves on.
Right.
But amazeballs.
Well, Jones, was he doing Fantastic Four at this time?
No, Byrne doesn't start doing Fantastic Four until after. So
that's Fantastic Four by himself that he was writing and drawing. He was doing some Fantastic Four around this time when Sinnott was inking him.
He did a couple fill-ins. Because there's that. Byrne and Claremont were really my gateway drug into comics because it's like my first issue of the X-Men that I bought on the stands is X-Men 111, which I've mentioned before, which is when Mesmeros has and it was a great entrance really into the Marvel universe because Beast guest starred, and I'm like, wait, I just saw this Beast guy in the Avengers. What's he doing over here? And then at the same time, Byrne and Claremont were doing Marvel Team Up, and that was my gateway into Spider-Man too. And just so good. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Look at you just throwing around an expensive comic book.
It's got bend the cover all the way back.
Yeah, roll it up in the back.
Yes. Everyone loves that.
I vividly remember. So at my grammar school, sadly, there people get fight.
And it's got this in the issue.
It's so good.
Look,
I love that warped Kirby dot effect that they did together.
Well, and Austin has done. Yeah, he made it his own.
Look, Terry does that so cool.
Scott, there's that shot I was talking about with Mesmero. It's a flat that shot. Oh, he's actually got him standing on the panel border.
Yep.
Yeah, Byrne does that a bunch actually, off and on throughout his career.
I'm not mad at it though. It's definitely kind of a no-no.
It is a no-no.
Rolling up the comic reminds me of like at my grammar school. Sadly, there was a lot of fights, and it would always be like, I don't know where this expression came from, but if someone was challenging you a fight, it'd be like, hey, dude, choose ye out after school at the tracks. Like choosing someone out became the way that you would challenge people. And
Sure.
and then the train tracks were just far enough away from the school that there was not a very good chance of any adult coming to stopping the fight. So it was a little bit like Fight Club for 10-year-olds. And I always remember this kid like being challenged to a fight and all of us going. And I remember just like, except back then you had to hide the fact that you were into stuff. But this kid got challenged to a fight and he had like a Hulk comic book and he rolled it up into a circle and put it in his back pocket before going into the fight. And my nerd was almost want to be like, look, let me hold the comic. Let me preserve it for you. You know?
You get your ass kicked. Don't ruin this comic.
Yeah, but let me protect the comic. Sure, it's just a Herb Trimpe. Sorry, Scott. But I'll protect it.
Yeah.
Hey, Rico Renzi is watching. Rico is so ridiculously talented colorist, incredibly nice guy. I know he has been affiliated with some great cons in the past. Yeah, this guy. Great colorist.
Thanks, Rico.
Yay. Thanks, Rico.
All
right, so let's keep moving.
Yeah, that next,
Sure,
that shot is heartbreaking.
This one's just killer. This took a left turn that I did not expect to happen.
No, it is horrible to see Storm depicted as a slave. I mean, all of the guys, but it's really brutal seeing the X-Men in the 1700s.
No, and they don't hide it. And I mean, this is a nice little bit about her headdress being keys and all that stuff or whatever. But this was a real left turn as a reader. Like I had seen the other stuff for him where it's like she's on the ship of the boat and they're doing whatever kind of earlier colonial stuff and this and colonial stuff that, and whammo! All of a sudden we have the Storm thing, and they don't hold back.
No, it's horrible.
Woo!
Yeah.
But it's showing the evil. It's showing who bad these people are when they're being bad. And at this point, Jean is just completely not the Jean that we know.
And it's so awful because essentially Jean and Storm are almost best friends at this point. So for her,
they were roommates, weren't they?
Yeah, it's just. And I like that they're working in. Kurt's got his little Errol Flynn mustache. Still like, all right, even in the 1700s, Kurt is a bit of a swashbuckler.
Totally.
All right, let me.
Yeah, I hate those series of panels. It's so brutal.
But then, just to remind us, Scott has to remember who she really is.
Yeah.
And this is a great flashback / bit of exposition too, because I don't think they actually showed this exact moment. Like they have. Yeah, like this is
a bit of a cheat.
Yeah, that he saved for the psychic rapport. Exactly. Like we did not know they had a psychic rapport. They basically told us this at that time. Also,
we knew they had this moment on the bluff or whatever, all away from everybody else, and they had a romantic afternoon, evening, or something like that. But this is new information.
Points for that horrible mask that Scott's wearing. Though I like the storytelling that they have his ears exposed, so it's like, okay, look, we have to be able to set up that he can hear everything that's going on.
Right.
Right. But there we go. Then we've got the connection going on.
Look, and that shot, just like the one where they phase from the present into the past, or with this shot, it's like these are cross dissolves. Like cinematically, this would just be a cross dissolve.
That's
like
just a dissolve. Yeah. Byrne was doing
absolutely
really sophisticated storytelling back then.
I hate seeing that blood on Aurora's cheek too. It's they've colored it black, but that's an open wound that's bleeding. That's not just a shadow. I don't think.
Nope, and that again was a rarity for those days, even in the black blood version, not coloring it red or whatnot. That was still, again, there was no holding back on that stuff. They wanted to portray this as that part that was just terrible.
Yeah, I think that we get a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't say they were desensitized to violence necessarily through the comics at all, but I do think that this comic. I mean, I don't know what else was going on at the time, but this one for me really did seem very mature and very adult, and like it definitely seemed like the danger was real in a way that I don't think I had felt before.
No, I think you're right, Jeff, because even then, I mean, we all read some really good comics back then, but there wasn't. Like generally it was like the Incredible Hulk TV show, or maybe I should say more like the Rockford Files or something, like where like nothing's going to really happen. we're going to take our heroes on an adventure this month, but then they're all going to fly back safely to the X Mansion and everything's going to be fine. And as we know, they were setting up something irrevocable at this point, and we didn't know that that's where it would go. But so this is pretty scary as a reader, because you're like, we're hitting some point of no return here stuff. Like,
well, and think about what's happening in these panels right here. This is where, Nightcrawler is like, what are you going to do with us? And Shaw explains how they're just going to be guinea pigs, and we're going to use you to figure out how mutant powers work so we can manufacture it or do whatever we want to do with that. And hey, you know what? It might have even been better if we had killed you.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark stuff.
Yeah.
No, Shaw is such a great villain. He's really the worst, because we've got, there's always been that thing, people saying that, like, look, Professor Xavier sort of represents Martin Luther King, and Magneto represents Malcolm X or something like that, where Malcolm X loves mutants and he just has his one way of saying that, but Shaw is a mutant, but he doesn't care about mutants at all. He's like the worst,
He is just a self-serving philanthropist, whatever kind of a thing. Yeah.
That's why Kevin Bacon is perfect casting.
Exactly. So then we go away from them and we have a little page interlude that they literally say, they call it an interlude when we start the first caption.
Right. Now that reverse silhouette is a great shot. And this go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there is some brilliant story, like economical storytelling done in here, right? Because we see the island, it's in reverse silhouette. So all we need to know is the island and the clouds and whatnot. But then when he cut in, he's in reverse silhouette, and so is the light.
Yeah, right. Because this is dawn, right? Like they're showing that it's dawn.
Yeah, and that she's been up all night. But just think of the planning to just show that. Oh
wait, there's this one first. Yeah.
Right. So he then looks up to see that it talks about seeing the light that left on.
Right.
Well, this is such a crazy thing about how comics have changed and adapted, because this is a really great scene between two people that love each other. It's like a very adult scene. Like, I love that whole, oh, fancy a jog? Ugh, dreadful thought. Want to fool around then?
Right.
The spirit is willing, my love, but the flesh is beat. That's a cute joke. But it's 7 panels. There is a shit ton of caption and dialogue, and there's something from journalist Jim Salicrup, their editor. Yet, it doesn't feel overly crowded, And I feel
it's not dense. I mean, it's dense, but it's not. It's easy to follow.
This would be a 4 or 5 page cutaway scene in a modern comic now,
easily. Yeah. And it's one of those magic marriages of that storytelling, in that John Byrne wasn't overdoing any shots. He wasn't going, well, how do I make the most really cool shot of this island thing? And I could do this really 3D cool. No, you just simply tell it, give enough space for Chris for all his captions and stuff. And then the marriage of the two will work out. And that's how you tell a story.
No, that's great. And then on to the next interlude. We're gonna come as close to that.
We're gonna point out.
We're not gonna make it. We got 12 minutes.
No, but we're gonna come closer than we ever have.
That last panel, Scott.
We've actually gone through half the book. All right, last panel. Hang on.
I'm so proud of us.
Right,
Another back to silhouette.
They're back to that silhouette, and you still see that window that they're both in.
Yeah.
And that's where all the dialogue's coming from. I think that's genius.
Yeah.
All right, move on. Go on.
All right.
Wait a minute. Since we're here,
and
I got to try.
Now we're to another silhouette, Jeff, but an actual silhouette.
Now, look at that panel in print.
Oh, you can't even see the window.
Well, this is the last one. Is the window was in there? Hang on.
Son of a bitch.
There. Oh, yeah. But look how weird and garish those colors are in print and all that kind of stuff for that sunset. And yet, look how smart she was about it here. Look how it printed. It's so gorgeous.
It blends, yeah, for sure.
So pretty for a comic book.
Yeah,
it's
great.
Is this Gwyneth, or how do you pronounce her name?
Yeah, this is Glynis.
How many names can I fuck up tonight? Let's see.
We have a picture of her too, don't we, Scott?
Say it again.
Do we have a picture of her down at the bottom?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we should mention all this casting crew again. There's Glynis. That's an older picture I could find for her. I don't know exactly when that picture's from, but I think it's from roughly around this time frame, maybe late 70s, and not the 1980 or whatever this is. The comic
and
book is.
married to Lynn Wein or Wine, right?
At this time, yes, she was. When she first started coloring and whatnot, working at Marvel, she was not. She was Glynis Oliver.
That's right.
And she was married, and she was Glynis Wein for a long time. But I think by the late 80s or 90, before she left the industry, I think she was back to Glynis Oliver.
She really has. I mean, I wouldn't say she's an unsung hero because we all know who she is and we all love her work. But I definitely think that her contribution to what made these books great, I don't think it can be overstated. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Right, her sense of style, her sense of color really defined this entire era.
And working with the tools that she had at her disposal at the time are pretty great. You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we should also mention this little gentleman. Who is it, Steve? It's Tom Morzakowski.
Oh.
Again, I don't know the exact age or time frame of this photo, but it's the only one I could find that was a younger of him, and it wasn't current day photo.
Someone, a woman I went to college with was actually, he was also a basketball coach in his spare time. And,
what? Oh, yeah.
And she was on his basketball team. Just little tidbit of comic book trivia.
So weird.
And rounding out our team, of course, that's the shot of Terry that I found. And I think that's Ron Wilson with him.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't, who's the artist that's man?
I forget where I got the picture from. I forget what it said. I think it said it was Ron Wilson. And everybody knows this guy.
Yep.
Kieran Dwyer's stepdad.
Yep.
Yep. And of course, Chris, the man himself, who helped start the whole train rolling.
Yep.
God bless him. All right, let's get to that angel page. We still got a couple minutes.
Yeah, go.
Okay, here, interlude 2.
All right. Another amazing silhouette. Always.
And all of this stuff. Yeah. And all the stuff that he kept doing with Angel during this time was really important to the book because as much as we had seen before Nightcrawler or Storm or whoever being a little bit flabbergasted or shocked or whatever by Wolverine's violent nature or those kind of things, some of them had gotten a little bit used to it. So it was really nice when they brought Angel in for this stuff because he was immediately that brand new pair of eyes for dealing with someone like Wolverine going, oh my God,
right.
I don't know if I can be with this guy on this team. This is crazy.
Right. Our team has changed a lot. We used to be just a bunch of people sitting around in turtlenecks. You know, and sport
going to a coffee shop for a beatnik coffee or something.
Exactly. Right. And this
so he comes in and talks to Xavier. And this is important too with the dropping of the plot stuff, in that we find out that even though Xavier has returned after being away for quite a while with Lilandra and stuff, he doesn't have his connection to the X-Men like he used to. So he cannot help them when they're out here in trouble.
Both these interlead scenes are great scenes because they kind of slow down the crazy pace of the Wolverine thing, but they also build tension. You know, like Moira and Sean's scene is building up about just how much trouble we're going to be in with Jean. And then this scene, it's such a well-written, it's so self-reflective. I mean, Charles is sitting here going like, I mean, just that bit of, you know, from the beginning, I trained Cyclops to take my place as leader of the X-Men. But when that day finally came, I found I resented it and him. Right. That resentment caused me to make some terrible mistakes, Angel. I fear innocent people will, you know, it's just like, it's like, what comic has characters, leaders like sitting around, like beating themselves up, you know, thinking about their past mistakes? You know, it's like,
well, also that leads to, I mean, the next storyline where Jean becomes a dark, like,
yeah,
yep,
right. Like it's definitely setting up like the emotional consequences of these actions
for sure.
And now we get Jeff's favorite scene:
Wolverine in a dumbwaiter.
No, in the waitress.
Oh.
But also, just I love the fact that these two have an interaction, and also that John Byrne. If you go back just a quick sec, Scott, like he draws a picture of Pan.
Okay, no, that I'm so glad you. Not only that, it reminds me of my favorite comic book story.
I copied that picture.
Oh yeah,
my favorite comic book story of all time is that Frank Frazetta 6-page story about the two actors that fall in love with each other, and there's there's all those great shots that, like, you know, Frazetta's just
attacking a deer or something.
Yeah, he's just putting all these statues into the shot, and so anytime anyone like that feels like a callback to that to some degree. But
Well, and also Pan wasn't just the god of debauchery and nymphs and whatnot, but like there was a time where Pan was actually associated with the Hellfire Club.
Oh.
So,
in reality?
Yeah. I mean, he was
excellent.
like they were a very debaucherous club, but and Pan is the natural go-to god for that. But like, it's fascinating to me that he put that particular god in there. Like, these guys did their research.
Damn,
I was about to say, it would be interesting to have been in that conversation to figure out if Chris had figured that out or found that out in doing research, or if John had, or whatever. They decided in their conversations to mention it, and it obviously stuck with John enough one way or another that he put it in.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So good. Wolverine and a dumbwaiter.
And again, yes. When are we ever going to see Wolverine and a dumbwaiter? This is great.
And they're setting up Senator Kelly in that conversation too. More foreshadowing.
Yep.
Days of
Exactly.
Future Past.
And then Wolverine thinks he's got it in the bag. He's going, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And then.
Yeah, I love that.
Freeze, sucker.
Like, who would normally get the drop of Wolverine now? Like, it's a very human moment for him.
It would never happen.
Yeah.
It would never happen now. And then, but we picked that as a great cutaway moment, just like earlier where when we finished with the initial guards, that was the last panel.
Yeah.
Finishing with that whole scene. So we didn't know exactly what was going to go on. And then we cut to the other stuff going on with Sebastian Shaw and all those guys.
Right.
And now we cut back and he's in the dumbwaiter. So we're like, oh, okay. So then we get to Wolverine here with the gun against him. Like, wait, what in the... And what do we do next? Cut right back to our evil people.
Yeah.
Great.
And
shot.
how is Cyclops going to help on this situation and lead this team through this conundrum that they're all stuck now? They've all got those manacles. No one has their powers.
Right.
And that basically feels like, in animation or film, we just push in on Cyclops and we slide off Jean and Leland, and then cross dissolve. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Where does Mask go? Where'd the background go?
Right. I
And
mean,
it works as
Thankfully, those panel 4 and 5 saved Byrne a little time.
right.
Well, and then but you had the last panel that has no background.
Yeah.
It has the white in there already. So then it naturally flows into this one.
Yeah. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, his shot selection is brilliant, and his timing is just great.
Cool.
He is.
So then, now all of a sudden he's like, wait, I was in the, but now I'm wearing this? Uh-oh, This isn't good.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, boy. She stresses the Black Queen. That is also not good.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there she is. Oh, no. Honey, do you remember who we are?
Hello.
Right.
Damn you, Jason.
And right, Jason's in it. So then we go, this is the top of the next page. Johnson was pointing this out before in all those conversations that we need to have Steve Jones in on before we talk this show. But Jason's a left-handy.
You're right.
For this whole fight.
He stays consistent. Well, actually, yeah, so this is foreshadowing Princess Bride, because then Scott switches to fighting left-handed,
Which, by the way, I think that was just a matter of Chris noticing that John had screwed up. That would be my guess at this point, was that John wasn't paying attention. And Chris went, I have to write this in now because we have no time to fix this. Terry already inked it. Let's get it to, publish. I have to write in a panel now explaining how we switched hands.
I totally buy that.
I'm going to give John credit that they planned it that way.
All right, fine. It was planned.
No, I'm going with Scott because I feel like John might have drawn the panel where he actually switches, but maybe not. Maybe not.
I mean, that's a question you would ask. You would have to. What a weird question you would ask Byrne.
Hey, 40 years ago when you drew this panel,
Yeah, when you drew this one panel, did you fuck up?
I mean, you could look at it in all sorts of different ways too, because I was just looking at the other things. When you look at the rest of the page, Jason, because of like the intro of the sequence, he starts off, well, there he's on the left. That's not fair. But Scott's talking to the people on the right side of the panel, right? And when he's first fighting Jason is still generally always on the right side of the panel. That's where they're always fighting. But on this one panel, they flipped, which is weird.
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting. I wonder if they flipped the panel.
And yeah, that's why I'm like, well, maybe Chris wanted Jason to talk first, so they flipped the panel, which meant though that, but that doesn't make sense because Jason's still left-handed.
All right.
Listen,
Next
I've worked from a Chris Claremont script. It's all in there.
Right.
He writes a very long script.
That's right.
Well, then, yeah, maybe there was like supposed to be, according to Chris, like 3 panels of Scott changing hands and flipping back and forth, doing the best he could to do the fight. And this is the best that John could fit it in with everything else that's going on. Because again, we have 17 pages, folks.
Yeah. I couldn't find it. I looked around. I could not find like the original script. I would love to see it, to see what John was given and what he turned in.
And here we are with, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was gonna say next page because this.
Right. So then Scott was sitting there going like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. He might be right and win. We cut right back to Wolverine, cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
So great because it's essentially the same shot and just that, that fap is such a good. Someone mentioned before the great onomatopoeia of all the sound effects which I guess that is literally their job. But but that's a particularly great one, and the fact that his head still looks so relaxed as the hand comes in and does that, it's just a great,
so cocky.
It's almost like he let that guy sneak up on him so he could use him.
Yeah, actually. So then he uses him.
Great
shot.
Great
Look
shot.
at that Wolverine shot on the right, man. Oh,
so, feels like it's probably been swiped by every artist that we're fans of over the past 40 years.
I know, I've stolen it.
It's a great shot. Very just easy rolls off, but it's so Wolverine. It has a little more attitude than you'd see from, Captain America or just about anybody else.
For sure.
Really intrinsically him. Which then leads to the crowd going, ah! But then here we go. This is what we talked about at the beginning. 3 guys with some clubs.
Cudgels.
Cudgels. And they're actually in a couple panels now leaving it. So it's like, this is where we leave him now. Now he's in trouble. Just these 3 measly little guys.
Yeah. We cut back to the astral plane, like at the peak of the action where Scott's really in trouble. Back to Wolverine. We think Wolverine's got it all under control. Big reversal again. And
then Scott's in more trouble. And suddenly, ooh, last panel of the page.
I wonder if I've seen anyone run through in a Marvel comic before up until that point. Like, I don't know.
I was about to say, this has an exit wound, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the exit wound, but you can't see the entrance wound.
That's but this is
true, which was the rule. Yes.
This is going beyond the Frank Miller Elektra Psy shot, like, because we're actually seeing the blade. It's not just the clothes poking into a shape. Chihuahua.
It's a big deal.
Yep.
Speaking of which, we should be checking in on this.
We got one more page, Scott. We made it.
We're there. We're there, buddy. Wait a minute.
That's some nice ink and Jeff.
Johnson, did you not put in the last page?
It's in there.
I'm like,
trust me, it's in there. Hang on a second.
I'm not seeing it.
There you go. Wait a minute.
Dun, dun, dun. No,
that's not it.
That's the next issue.
Wait. Okay.
There's this, but that's just a photograph of. Is that it?
That's good enough. That is 43. The last issue. Yeah.
That's
it.
Okay.
It's a little bit cut off on the top and bottom, but not bad.
Talk about a great cliffhanger where it literally, you have Nightcrawler screaming that Cyclops is dead over seemingly the dead body of Cyclops.
Yeah.
What a great issue. You have the whole intro with Wolverine going on. You've got the whole plot craziness that Jean has been subverted into the Black Queen and is just part of this very evil group that is extremely scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is enough to give a 10-year-old a nervous breakdown.
Honestly, it really was, because you're like, whoa, I don't know if I have to wait a month? No way.
I would go to my neighborhood 7-Eleven like multiple times a week to make sure I never missed stuff. X-Men 111 was the first issue I bought in a 7-Eleven. I only missed the 129, and I'll never forget that 2 issues after this, the X-Men 135, that the guys that ran the 7-Eleven, they knew me so well that they actually let me come back and cut open like the package. And so I remember like I I went in before school and got to cut open the package and got to see that bright green cover of Dark Phoenix crushing the cover of the X-Men.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I've got to read this before school, but I'm going to be late.
I might have to skip.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys. I'm so impressed with ourselves because we all knew we had a heart out. We got through the whole freaking thing. We didn't just talk about. That's it. Yeah. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
I think I had a tardy. I had a tardy at school because there was no way I was going to not read that comic before school, and I had to try to keep it safe all day in my backpack. And as people from back and secret, you couldn't let people know that you had comic books.
No.
Right.
Oh wait, since you mentioned it,
So
look at that splash page.
Yeah.
is it secret?
So good.
Is it safe? That's amazing. It's amazing. As the
So
teenage girls
cool.
today would say, it's amazing.
Look at that explosion.
So good.
Yeah. Good times.
Guys, a true pleasure.
All right, gentlemen, we'll see you next time. So next week is Thanksgiving.
Right.
We did it.
We did
2 weeks.
We got through something.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. We're hoping to have on a special guest, and we're hoping to talk about something cartoon animation related, right? But we'll
Yes.
keep
Everybody, stay tuned.
it a secret for now.
All right, everyone, let's go ahead and do the.
You got the end page.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody that watched and listened. Thank you, all the people that chimed in. And amazing that we had some such talented artists watching us today, too. That's a real treat.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Oh, here's that other page.
There you go. Check out our stuff. And
we need some music.
Music. Here we go. Hang on a second. Let's do this. Hang on.
Scott and I are just going to hum the music.
There you go. No. I love this. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. That show was awesome. Can't wait for the next one. Join us again for another round. We do another round.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.